Where did you first hear about the Reading Recovery Program?
I first heard about the Reading Recovery Program from Tim Stephenson. He was our elementary principal, and he asked me to join him at a conference down in Yankton. And we
Explain the Reading Recovery Program.
The Reading Recovery Program is a prevention program for first grade readers. It is 12 to 20 weeks of one-to-one help. Students have a 30-minute lesson a day. The books are sent home to be read at home, and they're read again in the classroom or with me. And we write a sentence, we do writing, we do magnetic letters, which is their phonics lesson, and we do a lot of reading. And the books are from level 1 through 20. If they reach level 16, at the end of the school year, they are considered to be successful. They are a first grade reader. We teach a lot of strategies to the first graders, what to do when they come to a word they don't know. So when they're reading, they should think about, does the sentence make sense? What are they doing? Does it make sense? And if not, they need to stop and read it again or find the reason it doesn't make sense.
What is your favorite part of your job?
My favorite part of the job is teaching kids to read. That's what I've always liked to do.
How long have you known about the Reading Recovery Program?
This is my 18th year as a reading recovery teacher. I have taught 42.
How often do you meet with the students in Reading Recovery?
We meet every day for 30 minutes.
What are the reasons a child would not reach grade level standard after going through the Reading Recovery Program?
Well, there's always illness and absenteeism that prevents them from doing well at school. Some children are not ready for first grade. They are not developmentally ready to learn how to read. And then they are they're tested, and they may go into the special ed program or into a learning disability program, or they may even repeat first grade. It just depends on the individual student.
Okay. What do you remember about being in the Reading Recovery Program?
Okay, well, I was in elementary when I did reading recovery at Groton High School, so I don't really remember a whole lot about like the intricate details, but I do remember reading a lot, and I'd go about every day to reading recovery. So I remember at the time I hated going because I thought it made me a little bit different than everybody else, but now I love to read, so I think it was a positive influence on my life.
How did you feel about reading and writing before you started working with the reading recovery teacher?
I honestly did not like it very much. I didn't read very often because I wasn't very good at it, and I didn't really write very well either, and my spelling was pretty bad. So, but after going to reading recovery for a while, I definitely got better, and I graduated out of the program pretty soon.
Did that feeling change after you were done with the intervention?
I think so. I think reading recovery definitely played a big part in why I like to read so much. It just gave me the confidence and like the extra help I needed to be able to read well.
Do you remember anything about the lessons and like what you did?
Well, it was like 15 years ago, so I don't really remember a whole lot about the lessons, but I remember a lot about my teacher. I really enjoyed my teacher a lot. She was really nice, she was kind, and we spent a lot of time together. I remember learning how to spell Wednesday, but that was like one of the main things that I remember.
How well did you think the reading recovery program benefited you as a child? Like, what were some things you learned that still help you today?
As I said before, I didn't like to read when I was in elementary school, and I wasn't very good at reading, but now I read all the time, and I love to read. I usually read books. I like reading magazine articles, newspaper articles, those types of things, and I don't think I would have the passion for reading that I do today if I hadn't been in reading recovery.
If you could change anything about the reading recovery program, what would it be and why?
honestly, I can't really remember a whole lot about the details of reading recovery. One thing though that I think I would change would be giving it a more positive influence, and things might have changed since I was in elementary school, which was a while ago. But I remember being, taken to a different room and all that stuff was very negative, and I think that if there was a more positive connotation with it, I would have been more I would have been happier about going to a different room and getting the extra help that I needed.
What skills did you take away from the reading recovery program that you implement in your classroom today?
Today I would say I focus a lot on reading and writing. I do a lot of reflections, and I think that's one thing that reading recovery has a little bit of influence on. I personally like reflecting, but I think it helps with like spelling and like critical thinking if you're constantly reflecting on projects that we did, and that's what I mainly use as a teacher.
How was your child doing in the classroom before reading recovery?
My daughter was actually in reading recovery, and she was identified as being below reading level. So at that time, we decided as parents that she would benefit from the one-on-one instruction of reading recovery, and it was definitely a success for her, as she is a high flyer in reading right now.
How did you support your child while she was in the reading recovery program?
Well, as a part of the program, you have the in-school instruction, one-on-one instruction with Mrs. Nolte and the other two that are certified as reading recovery teachers. But more so as a parent, you're involved because you have to read with your child a set number of books each night. So you're directly involved as a parent, and it takes time.
How long ago was your child in the reading recovery program?
How long ago, or how long?
How long ago?
How long ago? My daughter's actually a third grader right now, so it would have been in her first grade year, which is the premise of what the whole reading recovery focuses on, which is the first grade student.
Do you think the reading recovery program was beneficial for your child?
Most definitely. The one-on-one, both here and at home, was definitely beneficial.
Do you think it has benefited your child in like day-to-day activities?
I don't necessarily know if it's been day-to-day activities, more so than she's reading at the same level, if not above, as her peers right now.
Is there anything you wish your reading recovery program would have done differently?
I think the biggest thing with reading recovery is that it only identifies certain first grade students, where I feel maybe all first grade students would benefit from the one-on-one, but the program itself doesn't allow that.
What would you tell other parents or the school board about the reading recovery program?
I think if parents or the school board, we'll start with parents who are contemplating whether or not to enroll their son or daughter, I think they could hear stories from me personally or any other parents that have gone through the program and note the successes that have been made. So as far as the school board, this is something that we contemplate every year as being a part of the reading recovery program, and we see the benefit here at the school district. So it's for us, we've gone out and made that plunge and continue to do it every year.
I understand reading recovery was started at Dual School in the 1998-1999 school year. Can you give us some insight about the reading recovery program from a viewpoint of an administrator?
The viewpoint, obviously, that's well before my time when I was here, but from an administrative standpoint, any extra help that those kids can get at the first grade level and get them reading at grade level, everybody's going to benefit, especially when our ultimate goal is to have every third grader reading at the third grade level by the time they get to that grade. So it just helps encompass our goals as a whole in the school area.
Do you think the reading recovery program is beneficial to all first grade students?
Like I said, if it's not necessarily for all of the students, but those that meet the criteria, it's definitely beneficial.
Would you recommend the reading recovery program to other schools? If so, and why?
I would recommend it, and we're fortunate that we're a part of a co-op or a group of schools that reading recovery services. So over the last few years, some of the schools have bowed out of the program while others have kept it. Unfortunately, there have been enough schools involved that we've been able to keep it and fund the program. So obviously we see the benefit in it, but with the financial situation of schools today, that's not necessarily the case, and I can't speak for every school.
What do you remember about being in the reading recovery program?
My favorite memory from the recovering program was one time Mrs. Notley had me reading, and it was my favorite book. Like, I had read it over like 100 times, and all of a sudden, like, she's like, your mom was here and she listened to you read. And I was like, what? Because there was a glass that I couldn't see out, but my mom could see me in. And so after I finished the book, and it was just like such an accomplishment for me to finish that book. And then when I heard my mom's voice outside the door, I was just like extremely excited that I was able to like read this book in front of my mom and Miss Nolte. So it was awesome that my mom could see the improvement that I had made through the whole program.
How did you feel about reading before you started working with the reading recovery teacher?
When I came to Clear Lake, I was a year behind in almost pretty much, I would say, all my academics, so I was really struggling with reading. But then after working in this program, it just gave me a lot more confidence to become a better reader. I mean, I never wanted to read out loud in class. I never wanted to be picked on. I didn't even read the stories, really. I just skimmed through it because I was afraid that I was going to make a mistake. So having this reading recovery program really gave me the confidence to feel like caught up with my class.
Did the feeling change after you're done with the intervention?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, confidence was a huge thing. Coming into a new school at first grade, and I couldn't read as fast as everybody else. So obviously I was really, kind of feeling bad about that. But after the program, I felt a lot more confident in reading out loud and just reading with my classmates.
Do you remember anything about the lessons and like what you did?
Man, it's a long time ago. I can specifically remember, different stories that were my favorite and that I'd want to read them over and over again. So she would give me a book, and then I would, read through the story, and then she'd ask me some comprehension questions after that. And that's kind of all that I really remember from first grade.
How well do you think the reading recovery program benefited you as a child?
As a child, being a first grader and not being able to read at everyone else's level, it was just, I don't know, it just made me feel like dumb, I guess you could say. So being able to feel like caught up, I guess, was just like a huge thing for me.
What were some things you learned that still help with you today?
For me, and like with my occupation, being a teacher now, like helping me today, is just kind of knowing how the kids feel who are not at fourth grade reading level. So if they're not at that fourth grade reading level, I understand how they feel when they're not reading at their level. I understand that it's okay to read books at your level and be able to understand the book more than just trying to read some of these bigger books. And it just gave me some different types of strategies to do even now. If I read something and I'm like, wait a second, what did I just read? So I can go back and reread it again and, just use some of those different strategies that I was given as a first grader to help me understand things now.
Is there any other skills you implement in your classroom today?
Just kind of sometimes the rereading strategy, just looking for keywords that you do know. I guess I can't think of anything at the top of my head right now.
Do you think reading recovery helped you achieve your position as a teacher?
Oh, absolutely. And it was just, it was kind of an inspiration too. Like for me, like I know exactly how it feels to be that kid that's a struggling reader. So now as a teacher, I can kind of relate my feelings to how those kids are feeling. So it's, kind of drives me more to find more strategies for those kids to help them become better readers.
Explain the reading recovery program.
Reading Recovery is an acceleration program designed for first graders. We look at 6 different areas. Letter ID, they know some words that they can read and words that they can write, reading, and We choose the children that are the most at risk of not being able to get where they need to be because of their deficits, and then we design our lessons around what they need to know to get where they need to go.
Is reading recovery in more places than the United States?
Actually, it's all over the world.
Where did you first hear about the reading recovery program?
I was teaching in Castlewood in 1997, and Larry Fernie, who was the administrator for the Northeast Ed Co-op, came and observed me teaching lessons, and he said, I think I would like you to be trained for reading recovery as a teacher leader. So as a teacher leader, my job is to work with teachers and teach them how to work with kids who have reading and writing difficulties.
What made you want to become a reading recovery teacher?
Because everything I was trying so far wasn't as successful as what after I took training with reading recovery.
How were you trained in reading recovery?
I went to Sioux Falls once a week for a year. That was to be a reading recovery teacher. And then to have my position here at the Northeast Ed as a teacher leader, I lived in Sioux Falls for a year, and I took training at the University of South Dakota, worked with students while I was training.
Okay. Are you done with your training after the first year, or is there more? Or just a basic teacher?
As a reading recovery teacher, you have 1 year of training. You get 8 graduate credit hours. You're working with students as you take the classes. And then after that 1 year of training, we have continuing contact once a month until they are no longer reading recovery teachers.
Besides for like the basic teacher and then teacher leader, what other levels of advancement are there?
When a reading recovery teacher is trained, there's like a well-designed program. So we have the reading recovery teacher that works with students. We have my position, which is a teacher leader, and I work with teachers and students. Then we have a professor from the University of South Dakota that trains myself as a teacher leader and helps with my program that I design for the teachers that I work with. And then there's the Reading Recovery Council of North America that helps make sure that everything is, if it has a trademark that says reading recovery, we all over the world follow the same type of program, so you know that you're getting a good quality program.
Did the reading recovery training change your style of teaching?
Yes.
If so, how?
It gave me the research based. So when you know what the research says and if you know how the theory is supposed to go, then it helps you decide when you're working with students what you can do to help them achieve where they need to go as quickly as possible and to teach them to be independent while they're doing it.
Is there any aspects of the reading recovery program that you use in your own life?
Yes. It basically, as you're thinking about working with students and trying to get them always a little bit farther, pushing them to stay on that cutting edge of learning, you always try to keep them to be independent. So in my own personal life and working with society, it's trying to teach people how to do things so they can become independent in that learning.
What is your favorite part about your job?
The kids. Working with the kids, and then having students contact you later on. You've had one-on-one for 20 weeks to get where they need to go. If they still are having trouble, then all of the information that we've collected with our lessons will go with them either to Title if they need just a little bit more help, or to special ed when they need more help.
What are the reasons children will not reach like grade level standards after going through the reading recovery program?
There's just a variety of things. One of the things that we notice with children that are struggling is that they have problems with directionality. The letters are backwards. Maybe their eyes go right to left instead of left to right. That's confidentiality is part of that. So,
How many kids have successfully passed through the reading recovery program?
2 million. Worldwide,